Stop dragging that jammed up piece of plastic into the blind just because the guys on the internet told you it was the only way to hunt late season birds. Look, I know exactly what happens out there. The temperature drops below freezing, the sleet starts to coat your decoys, and suddenly that expensive gas gun becomes a completely useless boat oar. It happens every single season, and it costs guys the best flights of the year. You think you need an inertia-driven semi-automatic to handle heavy waterfowl payloads? You have never seen what the absolute top tier of modern survival engineering looks like. Here is the deal. 99% of hunters are ignoring the most reliable action on the planet because they think a double barrel belongs in a glass display case. But the new breed of side-by-side shotguns for 2026 is not your grandfather's fragile upland gun. These are heavy-hitting, element-proof, tungsten-slinging machines built to take an absolute beating in the salt marsh and the flooded timber. We are talking about bomb-proof lockups, advanced ceramic finishes, and mechanical triggers that simply do not fail. If you want to stop losing birds to frozen actions and actually trust your gear, you need to pay attention. Let's slot this heavy hitter in at number 6. Stepping up the game to number 6, we have the Fabarm Autumn Elite. Slings 12-gauge terminal performance downrange with absolute authority. Looking at the sheer mass of this Italian scattergun, it tips the scales at a hefty 8.5 pounds. Under the hood, you have to respect the 4-lug locking action. Instead of relying on a standard single underlug, this system utilizes 4 massive locking points machined directly into the steel receiver. This distributes the sheer force of 3-inch Magnum waterfowl loads across a much wider surface area, completely eliminating any chance of the action shooting loose over time. Beyond the lockup, the barrels feature the proprietary tri-bore high-performance system. Rather than a standard cylinder, the internal geometry uses a continuously tapered bore that gradually squeezes the steel shot column as it travels down the barrel. This constant constriction dramatically increases the kinetic energy and velocity of the payload right before it exits the muzzle. I saw a guy in a frozen cornfield drop a giant Canada goose at 60 yards with one of these, and it folded up instantly. Pulling the single selective trigger breaks like snapping a dry wishbone. Absorbing the recoil feels like getting shoved back into a plush leather sofa, mostly because all that extra weight eats the kick. But let's be real, that same weight is a massive deal breaker. Lugging an 8.5-pound piece of steel through thigh-deep marsh mud for 3 miles will completely exhaust your arms before the sun even comes up. Depending on the wood grade, this rig sets you back around $3,325. Stepping up the game to number 5, we have the Dickinson Sidelite. Look, this is how you bring old-school artisan craftsmanship into the modern mud. Imported from the AKUS factory over in Turkey, this double barrel slings 12-gauge payloads without breaking a sweat. Built around your choice of a forged aluminum or high-strength steel box lock receiver, it runs 28-inch chrome-lined barrels. Under the hood, we need to talk about the stout ejector springs. Instead of just lazily popping the empty shells up, these massive coil springs store enough kinetic energy to violently launch bloated 3-inch Magnum hulls completely clear of the chamber. That means you're never digging out stuck plastic with frozen fingers when the birds are dumping into the decoys. I watched a buddy of mine fumble with a jammed gas gun during a freezing sleet storm last season. A reliable rig like this would have kept him shooting, pulling the single selective trigger snaps like a brittle icicle breaking off a roof line. Taking the recoil feels like the steady shove of a heavy oak door swinging shut against your shoulder. But here is the truth. It is not perfect, The deal breaker for some guys will be those proprietary flush chokes. They are incredibly thin, and if you do not keep them absolutely drowning in lubrication, they will seize up tight in the barrel threads after a single salty hunt. This Turkish rig sets you back around $790. Reliability is the name of the game with the Sidelite. But wait until you see the absolute monster I have waiting for you at number 1. Now we get serious with number 4, the Akkar High Noon. This Turkish scattergun eats 12-gauge waterfowl shells for breakfast. Honestly, transitioning from a single-barrel gas gun to a side-by-side can really mess with your eyes. Under the hood, this rig features a 0.35-inch raised ventilated rib running down those 28-inch barrels. By elevating that sight path, it actually restricts your dominant eye from wandering across that massive horizontal barrel plane. It forces a sight picture identical to a modern autoloader, giving you instant target acquisition when a flock dumps into the decoys. I saw a guy at the range completely whiff 3 straight passing shots because he kept looking at the left barrel instead of the front bead. This rib fixes that visual confusion completely. Squeezing the single selective trigger breaks like snapping a frozen toe strap. Sending steel downrange, the recoil kicks like a startled draft horse. But here is the truth. That trigger pull is absolutely brutal. Coming from the factory at 9 pounds, it is way too heavy for fast follow-up shots and will absolutely pull you off target if you are not careful. Rugged and reliable, the entire metal assembly is wrapped in a proprietary oxycap treatment. This chemical surface hardening process creates a deep glossy barrier that shrugs off salt water and marsh mud better than standard blued steel ever could. Look, I know the fanboys will hate this heavy trigger, but sound off below if you actually trust this rig in the flooded timber. The damage to your wallet is roughly $1,199. Entering the elite tier at number 3, we have the Weatherby Orion side-by-side. Feeds on 12-gauge or 20-gauge shells. Built to take an absolute beating, this rig weighs in at 7.3 pounds in the 12-gauge model. Under the hood, Weatherby uses a split lump locking design. Instead of a narrow locking lug dead center, this system separates the lugs to the outside edges of the barrels, creating a massive bearing surface against the receiver. This drastically reduces the micro torque on the hinge pin when firing heavy 3-inch Magnum waterfowl loads, keeping the action locked up tight as a bank vault for decades. I shared a blind with an old timer last year who swore by this exact lockup after running tens of thousands of rounds without a hiccup. Squeezing the double mechanical triggers cracks like stepping on dry pine needles. Taking the hit from a heavy payload, the recoil slams back like a busted saloon door. Looking down the 28-inch barrel, you get a classic swamp rib that dips in the center, giving you a crystal clear field of view to track crossing birds. But here is the truth. The manual extractors are a massive annoyance. When you are covered in freezing mud and need to reload fast, picking empty shells out by hand instead of having them automatically ejected is a real pain. Street price is right around $1,099. This rig is a reliable workhorse, but wait until you see the engineering marvel waiting for you at number 1. Closer to the crown at number 2, we have the Fausti SLX. Eats 12-gauge waterfowl loads for breakfast. Look, if you want to trade budget grit for absolute Italian luxury, this is your weapon. Tipping the scales at roughly 7 pounds, it handles like an absolute dream when you are swinging on fast-flying teal. Under the hood, Fausti machines the entire receiver from a solid block of steel billet. But the real mechanical advantage is their proprietary 4-lock system. Instead of relying on a standard single underlug to keep the gun closed, This system uses 4 independent locking points that aggressively grip the barrel flats. This provides massive longitudinal and lateral stability, meaning the sheer pressure of modern 3-inch tungsten rounds will never stretch the frame or cause the action to shoot loose over time. I saw a guy in a flooded timber hole drop 2 mallards back to back with one of these, and the swing dynamics were just surgically smooth. Pulling the single trigger snaps like cracking a sheet of thin ice. Absorbing the heavy recoil feels like catching a firm medicine ball right in the pocket of your shoulder. Looking down the 28-inch barrels gives you a completely unobstructed view of the sky. But here's the truth. This thing is a safe queen masquerading as a duck gun. The absolute deal breaker is the mental anxiety of dragging a handmade Italian artifact through abrasive sand and corrosive salt water. Every time you bump it against the aluminum boat hull, your heart is going to skip a beat, setting you back around $6,040. It is an incredible piece of machinery. Finally, claiming the throne at number 1, we have the Beretta 486 Parallelo. Slinging 12-gauge and 20-gauge terminal performance downrange, this Italian masterpiece is the absolute pinnacle of double-barrel engineering. Under the hood, this rig features an 80mm double forcing cone integrated into their proprietary Stelium barrels. Instead of a harsh angle, this incredibly long tapered transition smoothly funnels the steel shot column from the chamber directly into the bore. This internal geometry drastically reduces radial stress and completely eliminates pellet deformation. Because the steel shot stays perfectly round, it gives you an impossibly tight, dense pattern at long distances without blowing out your choke tubes. I watched a guy on a coastal sea duck hunt accidentally knock his rig off the boat rails, and the built-in gravitational safety instantly locked the sears before the gun could fire. Squeezing that leaf spring trigger cracks like a frozen birch branch. Taking the heavy magnum recoil feels like a dull thud against a heavy sandbag. Look, this is an absolute work of art, but let's be real. The annoyance here is pure anxiety. Taking a luxury firearm with premium walnut into a freezing, mud-filled layout blind will make you paranoid about every single scratch. You are looking at laying down over $8,399. Listen, the side-by-side shotgun is not just a relic of the past anymore. These modern rigs are built to survive the absolute worst conditions you can throw at them. They give you the instant choke selection and mechanical reliability that gas guns just cannot match. Stop relying on gear that jams when the temperature drops, and start investing in terminal performance that actually works. Listen, the side-by-side shotgun is no longer just a fragile relic sitting in your grandfather's glass display case. The waterfowl hunting game in 2026 has completely changed. Look, these modern twin-barrel rigs are built to survive the absolute worst environments you can possibly throw at them. When the temperature plummets and the freezing rain turns the marsh into a block of solid ice, these guns just keep running. They give you the instant choke selection and pure mechanical reliability that those expensive gas-operated boat oars simply cannot match. Having that open choke for the first bird dropping into the decoys and a tight choke instantly ready for the follow-up shot at 40 yards is a tactical advantage you cannot afford to ignore. Stop relying on complicated gear that freezes shut when the migration is flying hot and heavy. Start investing in bomb-proof terminal performance that actually works when it matters most. If you want the raw truth without the fluff, lock it in right here.